Okay, everyone, let's get going on this particular webinar. So hi, nice to be back, and my name's Becky, and I'll be taking you through the webinar today. It's actually really, this webinar is really on about some critical issues of perspective. Perspective is so important for many reasons. We'll be focusing on using pretty much the Open 360 report just to emphasise this. It's because it's a report that has a lot of perspective, and it really tells you about yourself and really others and how they perceive you as well, and that's why it's so important, especially in business where communications can also go so sideways or so wrong, as we've probably found out. In talking to people about perspective, the one area I often get asked a lot about is actually regarding the extended DISC and leadership. They often ask me, how can you use it to give me insights about if my management team are doing a good job? How do I know that they are? How do I know what the team thinks of the management? Is there a type of leadership style that we actually need and that would suit the team better? Or sometimes people just ask me, Becky, there seems to be some issues going on within the team, but when I ask the manager says, look, everything's fine. How can I get to the bottom of what's really happening? So how can you get to those real issues, and especially the issue of perspective? Well, of course, the behavioural assessments are incredible, as we know, for answering many of these questions. But if you really want some specific clarity, and possibly to dig into areas that you thought might not be part of the issue, then I always suggest a different discipline, and that's using the clever and very powerful tool of the Open 360 report. So let me also point out that the Open 360 not only highlights the person's own perspective, but their peers, their direct reports, and their manager as well. So let's face it, with a group of people that are working together, often very diverse behaviours, overlapped with different personalities and different environments, it is also this often leads to issues, of course, and conflict and communication issues. But now those issues can sort of be more identified and pretty much improved on through the Open 360. So I guess before we start, in a moment I am going to take you through a scenario where a consultant used the Open 360 within a company that was having issues, but I want to really just start by giving you some general information on what a 360 is. I know many of you have used them already, but I also meet a lot of managers, consultants, end users, etc. that haven't really been exposed to them and don't really know the full effect of what they can do. So just to be clear, the Open 360 is a very different tool to the behavioural assessments that you're familiar with. They have a very different set of questions and very different results. Firstly, it's an online-based tool, so that makes it easy for everyone to be assessed anywhere or anytime. Therefore, it's also often implemented as an anonymous feedback tool as well. That's pretty important, as participants need to feel safe in answering the questions and really put their honest perceptions forward. The questions themselves can help measure perspective on things like perceived skills, behaviours, competencies of an individual person, so it's not just based on behaviour. It's already used in many areas such as performance appraisals, succession planning, team development, and it's also, and of course, actively used in leadership and management development as well. The 360 is designed to measure the opinion of a group of people, usually from all around the individual, hence the name 360. What I mean by that is that it's good to get feedback from their peers, their manager, and of course their direct reports as well as themselves. In addition to that, the tool concentrates on self, and we'll have a look at that with blind spots, and I can take that a bit further soon as well. So most people who I talk to about the 360 can't actually believe the scope. They're quite amazed with the scope of the Open 360 report. So here's some very common uses for it. It's often used as a team development tool, very good at a starting point to develop, I should say, a high-performing team. Give team members the opportunity to give good feedback from other people in a positive way. It increases openness and feedback within the organisation. It's aimed for team and communication skills trainers and consultants specialising in solving interaction problems, conflicts, etc. It's also a tool for managers to get to know their team better. Things like performance appraisals, performance management, training needs identification, leadership and management development, which is a big one, employee development, and skills development. It's a pretty good list, if you ask me, of some of the really good handy business uses. So it's probably time to dig a little bit deeper and look at the benefits of using the Open 360. It's great to know about all the products and about them, but it's obviously the benefits is really what we need to know. So having a look at this, it's basically increased self-awareness, and since real development starts with self, that makes the Open 360 a pretty powerful report mechanism. Identification of problem areas. Well, we all know that there are issues we don't see about ourselves or we really struggle in, but working them out can be quite difficult at times. Self-perception versus reality. We call these blind spots. Sometimes we don't realise that we are being perceived so differently from how we are receiving and perceiving ourselves in that area. Improved communication, usually a number one issue. We often feel that we communicate consistently and consistently well with our team and peers, but we also have to remember that we often communicate in our DISC styles. So it might be that an I style manager communicates verbally a lot to their team, often spontaneously and informally, but the team might really need communication that is structured and written and planned, as the majority of the team might tend to sit in that C-style area. Therefore, communication can be highlighted as a development area for the manager in this case. Things like improved performance and improved team dynamics, of course, as a result of working through or with any issue of, with strengths that can come to light as well. Compare feedback from year to year to see development progress. This is a big one. The report is not expensive, therefore an ideal business tool for ongoing tracking over time. I'll often implement an Open 360 at the beginning of a training program and then again after the training program has finished, just so I can see the results or the progress that there has been made during that training program itself. So there's a little bit of information or background on the Open 360, some of the common applications, some of the benefits of using it. But I'd really like now to have a look at a very generalised case study that explains a little bit more about how the Open 360 was used in a particular situation that happened. After that, we can use the scenario to look further at just how much perspective can actually play a role in leadership and building effective teams, especially with communication. So one of our clients, an HR consultant, was called into a company to help with some issues that seemed to be arising. After talking together, the consultant and the company decided that they wanted to implement a leadership enhancement program. They identified that they would start by putting all 4 of the department managers through it first in order to improve their effectiveness of each department and, of course, their bottom line. The brief to the consultant was for them to create a customized leadership program that could actually identify specific areas for development. The consultant, having used Open 360 feedbacks before, opted to start with putting the 4 department managers through an Open 360 feedback. This allowed the managers to receive and give feedback on each other, as well as allowing any direct reports, senior managers and other team members to give feedback on the various department managers as well. The consultant knew how important it was to get well-rounded feedback and just how important perspective and perception was in the process. The consultant created an Open 360 questionnaire using the Finks online system. The report was unique and very customised, using questions that were specifically tailored to their business and their business objectives. The Open 360 included 6 question groups, as you can see on the slides here, with each aspect linking to one or more of the department or company's goals. Obviously, the design of the questionnaire is very important. In this case, the response groups chosen by the consultant were, as you can see, communication, management, motivation issues, planning, prioritising skills, and delegating. Within each question group, there were 5 scaled questions and 1 open question within each of those. In this particular scenario, the Open 360 report was the consultant's tool of choice, as it also revealed what we call cognitive dissonance, known as the blind spot, between the manager's perceived performance and the actual performance as perceived by the respondents. We'll talk further on this, but in the report these issues are clearly shown as traffic lights. They are colours that indicate how different perceptions can be, and that of course is the first real step in personal development. So after generating the Open 360 report, the consultant noticed a large gap between the perceived performance of the IT manager and his direct reports. As we said, this was highlighted as a red traffic light. The consultant further examined the report and could narrow the area generating most of the concern and saw that it was within the communication question group. So, for example, the results suggested that the department manager might lack information and detailed descriptions of relevant updates for his team. Basically, he's just not detailed enough for this particular team. The consultant also noted on a particular question in the communication asking about a particular question, and it asked to did he provide detailed instructions when communicating important information. The team leader himself rated himself as a positive 2, whereas his direct reports actually rated him a negative 0.33. Clearly, this was an obvious gap. So this corresponded with the feedback from the open questions within the communication section as well, where actually 2 of the direct reports recorded something similar, alluding to the issues that the team manager did not provide enough information regarding updates from other departments, as well as important changes in any of the current IT projects that the team was actually working on. Interestingly, the manager also rated himself highly on another question in communication, and that it was he stays focused on the situation, the issue, or behaviour, not on the personalities. Once again, the direct reports noted that this was not a strong area of communication for the IT. This particular department manager was IT, and rated him accordingly. It was again highlighted as red. The consultant looked through the feedback from the open questions again and saw that one of the team members noted their manager often shuts them down when they ask questions. This meant that the direct reports were often blamed for problems that arose, simply because they did not fully understand the situation. But the manager genuinely believed that he provided adequate detail. The department manager went on to explain that he often got so frustrated when his team came to him individually a couple of days after receiving updates, asking questions about all the developments. It cut into his busy time and interrupted him when he was trying to be productive and finish deadlines. These frustrations actually led him to focus on his annoyance of team members rather than the issue at hand. I guess the personalities rather than the issues. As a result, the total scores and open questions revealed an actionable gap between how the department manager believed he communicated and how his team perceived he communicated. Using the Open 360 feedback, the consultant worked with the department manager to detail 3 focus areas of communication that needed development. These included the way he communicated, developing and participating listening skills, and thirdly, actively generating room for communication, so scheduling. As an action plan, the department manager was given coaching to lead him to improve the amount of detail he gave to his direct reports, scheduling gaps in his day to make time for listening to any of the questions from his team, and actively asking them about if they had any questions as well, all in the need to clarify. On the other side of it, working with the team, the consultant also worked with individual members to implement some communication processes that also helped to give them and everyone increased clarity and productivity. So due to the results formed from the Open 360, the company now has a systematic approach to leadership development which corresponds to the objectives of the business. This particular company now conducts Open 360 feedback reports every year to ensure the company is working efficiently. So in this case study, the consultant developed their own set of Open 360 questions that were very specific to the company's goals. Of course, you can do this too. In developing your own questions, you can choose to align them with a project, a very specific project, a department, or company objectives yourself. You can develop your own question groups, for example, areas of communication, motivation, leadership. You can pretty much design anything. Within those groups, you also can design questions that are very specific, and they can actually be skill-based or attitude-based if you want them to be, so not just behavioural. Open questions are often included and is very likely and popular to put in, as they give the response groups a chance to explain or give further comment in a particular area. All, of course, while feeling safe and telling their true perspective, because the whole thing is anonymous. However, there are also many templates already implemented within the Think system that you can use or modify if you need. These are questionnaires that are already well thought out and have questions that reflect some common issues or themes in business. So you can see on the slide there what I've put up, things like small leadership, management, sales manager, etc. Or of course develop your own. Just remember, if you'd like to conduct an Open 360, make sure that you have full rights to access the templates in your Finks account. Just either ask your master trainer or, of course, HR profiling if you need to. The actual results of the Open 360 can be displayed in so many different ways. It's really up to you how you feel you'd like to view them. There is more in-depth information that can be emailed to you that also gives you insights to each chart and table and graph, for example. But here's a little example. There's 5 of them here on the screen. There's a table, a line chart, a bar chart, and a spider web. Of course, the open questions can be displayed too. Again, it's just up to you and how you would like to see the results displayed for you or your client. So just back to the blind spots for a moment, what we call the blind spots. I particularly love these. I just find them really amazing to be able to visually show people what their perceptions are between self and others. So these can also be shown in different ways, like a bar chart, a column or line through though the tendency obviously is to leave it in the questions or chart form. The red, of course, indicates a big difference between self-assessment score and the score received from other assessors. The green mark indicates the scores are aligned, and the yellow indicates there is a moderate difference between self-assessment and the assessors. So, however, the analysis gap can go a bit deeper than that and help determine what the gap is indicating when it's either negative or positive with a certain colour. I'll just make it clear that while the blind spots can bring up development issues, it can also highlight where a person being assessed is actually being overly critical of themselves. And you can see on the screen there by looking at the coloured charts what the yellow means when it's negative versus the yellow meaning when it's positive, and vice versa with the red. So you can see just how powerful the blind spot indicators are when trying to analyse specific areas, as they really do give a reality check on perception. Lastly, I just wanted to tell you about some of the Open 360 workbooks that have recently been developed, and they are available to you. There are 2 there, as you can see. One is for candidates workbook and one is for the consultants to use. So these are really fabulous for helping you to understand what you're looking at and how to carry on and look at it, create action plans. Inside them that actually include action planning, questions, explanations, and a bit more information on the graphs and charts in depth as well. So using an Open 360 report is a vital part of performance, growth and development. Understanding ourselves and how we interact with others helps us understand the impact we have on those around us. The perceptions of others within our circle of influence, whether those perceptions are accurate or inaccurate, often impact our level of success. It's been said that perception is reality in the workplace. If perceptions aren't managed, they can lead to conflict, disillusionment and communication and in the culture. As we know, most people are pretty uncomfortable providing direct feedback, so genuine feedback is frequently hidden. That makes our reputation, how others perceive us, either an asset or an issue, especially in the workplace. Most leaders typically don't receive genuine feedback very often, and it's probably pretty fair to say that without genuine feedback, we can tend to invent our own perceptions of our own performance. How can we then develop ourselves or even high-performing teams if there are underlying issues floating around that really need to be resolved first? So if we can receive effective and constructive feedback in the form of an Open 360 report, it can provide vital information that lets us know not only how we're doing, but direction for growth if we really want them. So if you have some questions about the Open 360 feedback, or you would like to get hold of the workbooks or know the costs involved, please feel free to drop an email to info@HR Profiling and they can help. They have information packs on the 360s ready to go that will aid you in using this wonderful tool. So thank you everyone for listening in today. It's always lovely to have a live audience. You'll be hearing again from me at the end of the month when I'll be presenting a webinar on the extended DISC and recruitment. Bye for now and thanks again.